very good afternoon. This is vk3sl. Back to our test missions again. We resume, and we have just arrived home 10 minutes ago. It was a rush, and I thought, will I do it? Will I not do it? But I've decided to go ahead today because I'd like to commemorate a very great musician who's just passed away yesterday. In fact, she is one of the last of that wonderful aristocratic tradition of fiddle players who really did extraordinary things emotionally with their playing and represented a golden era of music making, really, before international styles became all the go. And this is Ida Handel, who passed away in her late 90s yesterday. And she was performing until comparatively recently, really. But what an amazing career. So I think we will have a look at the vaults and see what we can find. That's the plan. Anyhow, just a reminder that we are streaming online. vk3sl is the name of the channel, and that can be found on YouTube. And so that's all happening. There's a secondary streaming service now as well, which can be found via my QRZ page. And you certainly are allowed to be entertained if you listen via either of those two streams. If you're listening on air, of course, it's technical missions. We're listening to the technical qualities of Miss Handel's playing today. Modulated sound abound. Yeah, so we'll kick off with a beautiful recording of Ida Handel made in the 1950s. Just a little vignette, Elgar's La Capricieuse. This is VK3SL testing. listening to the delightful playing of Ida Handel, playing Elgar's La Capricieuse, a recording made in 1953. Ms. Handel died yesterday in her, we don't really know her age, to be honest. It's in the mid-90s. Some people think she was born in 1923 and others think she was about 1925. So there's a bit of debate as to what her real birth date was. Her age was falsified, as was often the case with young virtuoso players entering competitions, and there was a certain advantage about being younger. So anyhow, it's an interesting subject, and I'm sure it'll all come out in the wash. Very celebrated musician, had a very distinguished career, made lots of recordings and numerous documentaries about Miss Handel as well. So I think we'll just have a listen to a section of one. I was trying to find one that's short because most of them go into great depth, and she was the subject of quite a few filmmakers' zeal, and there's some really forensic, incredibly personal accounts of her life and her formative years in Poland. And it's an extraordinary story there. But we'll listen to one which I found online, a short one, about 10 minutes only, and it's from a program called Voyage of Music, and it looks at I think it was made in 1988. So yeah, we'll hear a little bit about Ida Handel's background, and then we'll have some more of her music. This is vk3sl testing in the narrowband FM mode.
One of the great violinists and great artists of the century.
What Ida offers, only very few have to offer. And this is the profoundest and deepest feeling she transmits through her instrument.
I think she is one of the very greatest violinists. I have my own opinion how violin should be played, and she is just my player.
She's in the top, for me, 2 or 3 of this century.
It's always a thrill and a new experience every time you stand on that stage. It's as if you had never played before, because every concert is different. In 1986, my father and I returned to our native land of Poland. I had been invited to judge at the Wieniawski International Violin Competition and to perform with the Warsaw Philharmonic Orchestra. It was our first opportunity to return to our roots since leaving this country more than 50 years ago. I was born in the small Polish city of Chelm, not far from the border with Russia. This is the first time my father and I have seen Chelm since we left here in the 1930s. It was here that one day, when I was 3 and a half, I said to my mother that I wanted to play my sister Alice's violin. My mother said, "Don't you dare take Ala, as she was called in Poland, as violin." But I did not listen. I went up to that high table, I picked up the violin and I played. Well, my mother was shocked.
When I came back from school in the afternoon, she was playing the violin. And I just couldn't believe it, because I knew she never held the violin in her hands, because I wouldn't have let her touch it.
A couple of hours later, my father walked in, and my mother announced to him, "Look, Nathan, Ida is playing.
She said, Dad, she didn't let me go. I want her to play for you something. What will you play? Whatever you sing for me, I will play for you. So I don't remember what I was singing, but I started to sing, and she immediately started to play.
That was like a dream come true to him. All of his life he wanted to be a solo violinist. Didn't work out, and he hoped that one of his children would be able to play.
I said, no, I can't believe my own ears. I called up that Dobkovsky. He was my friend. He was a good fiddler.
It was such a remarkable feat. I'll never forget that. I said to father, I said, look here, Nathan, you have a jam. Maybe you don't realize that. Well, this little kid, I said, if you take good care of her, if you don't neglect her, will be a fine violinist someday. This is the one to take care. Now I'll tell you what to do. She needs a special man. I said, but there is one I know of in Warsaw. And his name is Professor Michałowicz.
And so we went to Warsaw in the spring, the whole family. Here, as a small child, I played the Wieniawski Violin Concerto in D minor. I returned in 1986 to play the same piece with the Warsaw Philharmonic Orchestra, directed this time by Tadeusz Strugała. I was touched when, before going on stage, I was greeted by Kazimierz Wielkomirski, who conducted the orchestra when, as a child, I played this concerto here so long ago. When I play the Wieniawski Concerto D minor, obviously it brings to mind my very early days, my childhood. I was really very, very moved this time to be playing it again. As far as I can recall, our life in Warsaw was very, very modest. We lived in one room. My mother tried to do everything to make ends meet. She worked very, very hard. So did my father. The main thing in my life was my family. And I was happy that we were all together. That meant everything to me. I didn't notice the penury. All I noticed was the love, and we always had enough food. My father was always terribly ambitious for me to be a top musician. So whenever a very famous violinist, one of the superstars, visited Warsaw, invariably there was Mr. Handel with his baby. Sometimes it was rather difficult to approach these people because they wherever they went, I suppose they were always faced with parents who had prodigies. So they tried to get rid of those people. Szymon Goldberg was an internationally known Polish violinist. He was home in Warsaw to visit, and father promptly took me to play for him.
It was a great experience, really, to see such a tiny, she may have been 5 years of age, to see such a little something to play so extraordinary with disregard to any difficulties on the very dangerous little piece of fingerboard with a tremendous projection, already with vibrato, and there's just a little miraculous personality.
My father's idea was actually Joseph Szigeti. This was the man my father really wanted me to study with. So one day he came to Warsaw, and father decided that he has to make him listen to me at any cost.
After the concert, I went into Szigeti. I told him, I have a child, a great talent. So he was just skeptical.
I began to play, and I was there for at least 1 hour. He turned towards me as soon as I began to play, and he said, well, of course, this is a tremendous talent, and it has to be taken care of and nurtured and so on. So my father said, Mr. Szigeti, you are the one I would like either to study with.
He was living in Paris that time. So he said, come to Paris, and I will teach her.
And there we have part one of a Voyage of Music, a program devoted to Ida Handel. This is vk3sl. We're sort of celebrating Handel's extraordinary musicianship, her miraculous personality, as Simon Goldberg said. It's amazing to see Simon Goldberg speaking, and he was a giant himself, and references to Szigeti. So, yeah, we'll probably continue that series in some form. I'll have to check out the other episodes. Excuse the blanks in the middle. There's something a bit out of check with the sound card and the playback putes, but we can't do much about that. Anyhow, we are testing, of course, on 160 metres, so don't be concerned. If you want to be entertained, you can go to the stream. So just the usual disclaimer. Okay, we'll move on. A work that Ida Handel was sort of synonymous with was the great Sibelius Concerto, and a work that she played for Sibelius, and I think it'll be in one of the later episodes. She'll talk about her association with him. It's a magnificent work. It's very dark, and I reckon we'll have a listen to the Sibelius Concerto. This is a recording she made in the 50s with, I think 50s or 60s, with Carl and Searle, and I think it's worth a listen. vk3sl, testing, and we'll now enjoy the music of Ida Handel. This is a test transmission from vk3sl. This is a test transmission from vk3sl. Well, what blistering virtuosity. We've just been listening to Ida Handel play Sibelius' violin concerto. It's famous concerto just performed only a few months after Sibelius himself passed away in 1957. And that was the Czech fill with Carol and Searle. Historic recording, and we're celebrating the playing and extraordinary musical insights of Ida Handel, who passed away yesterday in her mid to late 90s. We're not exactly sure when she was born. I think it'll be soon established, but she was one of the most formidable female exponents of the violinist's art of the century. Great individualist, very much a independent soul, and in my mind an advocate of that remarkable tradition of fiddle playing where the personality of the player stood supreme. And I'm always interested in that sort of wonderful amalgam between a strong personality as a performer and of course the ideas behind the work, the composer's ideals. Anyhow, we spent devoting today's program to Ida Handel. And she studied for a while with George Nescu, who is a Romanian composer, violinist, extraordinary conductor. He was a musician of who inspired everyone who even just looked at him or heard anything he did. He was an extraordinary communicator. And Ida Handel had the privilege of studying with him for a bit, and I think he had a profound influence on her and certainly fostered the more individualistic streaks in her own playing. So she championed his music until late in life, and here's a recording from 2009, so she's well in her 80s here. And she's in extraordinary form. I had to listen to this in the car on the way back from the Bellarine Peninsula, where I've been for the last few days, and we listened to it in the car, and it is just absolutely staggering. It's a live performance, and she's playing Enescu's Sonata No. 3, Opus 25. He's celebrated third violin sonata, and but it's just imbued with so much flavour, and it is just quintessentially Romanian. And what she brings to this work is something amazing, and it's incredibly authentic considering she studied with the composer. So, without any further ado, let's have a listen to Ida Handel playing the music of George Enescu, and I'm vk3sl, testing. vk3sl. vk3sl. Well, that performance is something to behold. It's an extraordinary achievement. You heard Ida Handel playing Enescu's Sonata No. 3, Opus 25. It's so impassioned, so alive, and it's remarkable. She's in her 80s. She's like a walking skeleton on the stage. There's not much of her. She looks pretty old and wasted, yet she plays as if she's 20. Well, it says a lot about life, I think, that we don't necessarily have to get old. We can remain on top of our craft in one sense, emotionally at least. And that was an extraordinary performance of a work that she sort of owned, because she did study with Enescu back in the early 40s, I think, and or late 30s. It was early days. Anyhow, tonight we have been celebrating the craft of Ida Handel, who passed away yesterday at the age of 95 to 97, or not quite sure which, but she was a formidable talent and a great ambassador for violin playing, and a wonderful teacher. And look, I urge people to have a look at some of the docos on her. The spelling of Handel is different to what you might expect. It's Haendel, Ida Handel. But it's the end of an era, really. She's the last of fiddle players from that generation in the highest echelon. And sadly, she's no more. But to think that she played like that when she was in her 80s just says everything about her attitude and her devotion. Well, there we have it. Should be back tomorrow. We'll see what happens. We'll take one step at a time here. This is vk3sl, Test Missions, and thank you for your indulgence. Cheers.